Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are live. Please do let me know in the chat where you're viewing from today. We'll give everyone just a minute or two to come on in and join us. I can already see Cardi Playbook is from Bucks County, PA. Now, I'm not from the US, but you guys are. Is that anywhere near you?
No,
Nope.
we're in hippie town, Boulder, Colorado, Oklahoma. Hey,
Colorado.
yeah,
Oklahoma, nice. Is that near you?
it's pretty big country. I was in Omaha, Nebraska, not last week or a couple of weeks ago. It's just an hour flight, so.
Oh, nice. What have we got? We've got
Oh,
Milwaukee. I can see Texas, Orlando. Oh, two from
yeah.
Orlando.
I was in,
Fantastic.
I was actually in Austin last weekend, the week before in Omaha. Oh my God, it was beautiful in Austin.
I think the weather's been amazing. Much better than here in the UK, where it is just raining constantly and a bit dark. So,
Boo.
yeah, boo for me. But welcome everybody. I think we can get started with our talk today. I can see you all coming in, which is brilliant. Today our talk is on scaling SEO services, how digital agencies can leverage Google's algorithm updates. I'm Paige Hobart. I'm a digital marketing lead at a company called Unily. And whilst I am in-house now, I spent the best part of a decade agency side. So I'm very excited for this presentation. I think you've got some cool takeaways today. A little bit of housekeeping before we kick off. So today's going to consist of a presentation by the lovely Chris and Daniel, followed by Q&A. However, please do pop your questions in as we go. We will probably stop and answer some as we go. If not, I will jump right back to the top of the Q&A. So the earlier you get your question in, the more likely it is for you to get it answered. The sessions are being recorded, so you'll be able to watch back later if you so please. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the fabulous Chris and Daniel to kick off the deck and introduce themselves. Take it away, guys.
Oh my God, the pressure is on. The fabulous Chris and Daniel. Well, hey, thank you so much, Paige. You're doing an amazing job. I'm going to have to hire you to do our intro for our webinars. Cool. All right, let's dive into it. So welcome to today's AI SEO webinar. We're going to talk about how to scale SEO services. This webinar is especially geared toward digital agencies on how to leverage Google's algorithm updates. We're going to talk a lot about AI, what's changing with search. Also, this is the world premiere of our AI and SEO software that we have just launched. So definitely stay tuned. Daniel's going to walk us through the interface toward the end of the presentation. That's sort of like we're building up to that point where that's really the highlight, I believe, of this session. So, all right. My name is Chris Raulf. I'm an SE Ranking brand ambassador and also the CEO, chief visionary at Boulder SEO Marketing. I'm originally from Switzerland, moved to Boulder, Colorado about 30 years ago. I speak globally about this stuff. If you happen to be in Barcelona, I think on February 22nd or 23rd, I'm going to talk about international AI and SEO there at a conference called ELIA Together. So I'm a bit of an AI and SEO nerd. I love what I do, and I have my business partner here today. Daniel, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second. So my claim to fame, if you do a search for international SEO expert, you're going to find my personal website at the very top. I'm probably not the best, but persistence pays off. I've been doing this forever. So yeah, and I get a lot of speaking gigs this way. So, but it takes something to get up there in the rankings. So I am a SE Ranking brand ambassador. That's absolutely my favorite tool, similar to other tools that many of you know out there. This tool does everything you need it to do. If you want to do a complimentary free trial, no credit card required, at the bottom is the link. Highly recommend SE Ranking. So with that being said, Daniel, who are you?
Yeah, quick introduction on myself. So I am originally from Brazil. I went to Miami for college, where I started my first agency. So I ran a web design agency for about 20 plus years before I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and joined forces with Chris. So Chris is the visionary. He comes up with all of the great ideas. My big responsibility is integrating them into our system. So really creating processes, making sure that the team's working as a fine, well-oiled machine. And more importantly, lately, I've been really laser focused on how to integrate AI into our processes. Chris brought up one time, probably about 6 months ago, if you're an agency and you don't have a task force, an AI task force, you are going to fall behind. So, the ability for agencies and most companies in general to be able to integrate AI in a smart way as part of their process is such a fundamental part of staying ahead of the curve and continuing to be relevant. That's what really I've been focusing on. And I'm going to share a little bit about that later in the presentation today.
That's actually an awesome point, Daniel. When I go to conferences where I speak and also attend other sessions, my goal is to walk away with like 3 things that I can implement right away. One thing, Daniel, you just mentioned that attendees should make note. If you don't have started an AI task force at your agency at that point, make that the first thing that you're going to do tomorrow or later today. All right, Daniel, I'm going to let you very briefly talk about BSM.
Yeah, so we are essentially an SEO agency, mostly focused on content marketing. We're really moving in the direction of more and more focusing on creating great content, which is what Google is looking for in ranking websites highly. So a big part of what we do is micro-SEO strategies. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what those are. But a micro-SEO strategy is essentially focusing on one page, on one specific topic cluster, and creating the best, most complete resource of information about that piece of content. And we've seen over and over, that's what Google's wanting to rank highly on search engines. And that's essentially what we bring to the table, is this methodology, the micro SEO, and in a really streamlined process to actually bring these to life, which we're going to go over also in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so and then just do a quick search for Micro-SEO. You'll find a guide that was published, I think on Friday. It's at the very top in Google. So this is what we're going to talk about, how to get to the top in Google with, the new search environment that we're in. All right. So we're in the right place at the right time. The search engine market, as well as the content marketing market, is growing rapidly, right? So I think that we have a lot of agencies here in this webinar. So this is the great news, right? We're like, if you're going to do the right thing, which we're going to share a lot of what we're doing, what's working for us, you're going to do really well. This is like one of the most exciting times to be in SEO and content. Why? Finally, something is changing, right? These generative AI tools are emerging. It's completely disrupting the search market. So this is very cool. I'm beyond excited with what's happening. I know a lot of people are scared. You need to turn that around. You need to be excited, and we're going to show you why. All right. So online search is undergoing a seismic shift, right? I mean, there's no question about it. Search GPT just went, I think, public to everybody. So I started to use it yesterday. Search is changing completely. That is the reality. So you gotta make changes. So are you ready or not? You're gonna know after this webinar, and I do recommend that you're gonna adapt as fast as possible. All right, as most of us are aware, a massive core algorithm update just concluded rolling out a few days ago. And then a day later or 2 days later, Google started to roll out yet another core algorithm update. It's even more massive than the previous one. Why is that? Well, a lot of millions and millions of pages of AI generated content is flooding the internet. Google is in the business to make money. They love money, right? They don't want to spend money indexing that low quality AI generated content in their server farms, right? It's costing them money. So I predict we're going to see more and more and more and more core algorithm updates rolling out all the time, simply because search is changing, right? And Google is in the business to make money. They don't want to spend money. So that's what's going to happen, right? Many of you are probably familiar with Glenn Gabe. He posts a lot of information on LinkedIn. This is a post from a couple of days ago where he shares really good up-to-date information where it's like, hey, check this out. A new algorithm update is rolling out and it's impacting, this website dramatically. So if you want to follow somebody that actually shares really good insights, Glenn Gabe is your guy. My point being is that you're looking at our Google Search Console data. Whenever one of these massive algorithm updates is rolling out, you should not have to worry, right? A lot of people, if you go to LinkedIn and do a search for, algorithm update, a lot of people are freaking out. Why? Well, they've been doing SEO the wrong way for a long time. So with us, we finally got on and we started to optimize the website a little bit. So we're going in the right direction, right? Whenever an algorithm update is unleashing, you should not have to worry. There shouldn't be a massive spike, but certainly not traffic going down. Daniel, any thoughts on what we started to implement over the last, 3 years now?
Yeah, and then I think, you're going to show the case study of one of our clients that did the wrong things for a long time. And what that looks like with algorithm updates. But yeah, I mean, what we've been doing over the past 3 years is essentially, we're going to go over what Google's actually looking for in content, right? And that's one of the slides that we're going to talk about. But it's really creating content that is helpful, that is a resource of information, that is a piece that's helping visitors become better educated and, troubleshoot and find the information. So when you're actually doing that content time over time, anytime that there's a Google algorithm update, you actually get more of a boost from that work, right? When you're just creating pages for creating pages, those are essentially the pages on your website that will really hurt you anytime one of these Google algorithm updates happen.
Yeah, and go to your Google Search Console, look at pages, see how many pages actually de-indexed. I know a lot of people don't do that, but that's a good indication about the health of the content on your website. So that being said, many of us have heard it before. Page SEO is finally dead. Well, long live SEO, also known as CMPCCOAD. I will explain what that stands for, but this is what we're doing here at BSM. This is what our AI and SEO system is about. So I think you're going to learn a few new things that, it's not rocket science. You can actually implement that too. All right. So this is what we have a very short amount of time today. This is what we're going to try to tackle today. I trust, all of us can read. So I'm not going to read what we're going to do here today. But again, what you want to look for is the walkthrough of the BSM Copilot, where we show in action what we're doing, how we're doing, and why we're doing things. All right. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. If you have questions, plug them into the Q&A or chat interface. And then Paige, if there's something that we absolutely have to address, just interrupt, please.
Will do.
Awesome. Cool. So what we're doing apparently is working. You're looking at real customer data, Search Console data, year over year, last 3 months versus the same 3 months last year. Significant increase in Google organic search traffic. And then here's another amazing result. I tell you, these customers, they leave you alone, right? If you run an agency, dealing with clients can be sometimes tricky. If you deliver smooth sailing, right? This is where we want to get to. So this stuff is working, and we'd love for you to be able to implement that too. All right. So let's talk about the changing landscape of SEO. So Google initially implemented RankBrain back in 2015. That's when they first started to use machine learning and infuse AI into their algorithm. It's not that long ago, but man, it's a world of difference that we live in now, right? Over the years, they unleashed algorithm updates, names of animals, etc. But probably the most significant updates, BERT and MOM, where Google started to infuse their transformer technology into the algorithm. It's an open source technology that basically enabled OpenAI to eventually create ChatGPT. So that was a game changer. So this was like the path from back then to where we're at now, where now we have these generative AI tools that are actually cutting into Google's market share. So that's just a quick overview here. Then okay, scaled content abuse. So as we are now living in an AI-generated world, so to speaking, again, Google had to update its algorithm. They had to quickly detect AI-generated content. They were caught off guard, right? When ChatGPT launched, they thought they would be the first to market with, what is it called? Assistant Bard or Apprentice Bard. That's now Gemini. Completely caught off guard. So quickly, the internet was flooded with AI generated content. So Google was struggling. They still are struggling with this, but they had to update the algorithm, basically come up with guidelines with actually tell people, hey, if you generate 1,000 blog posts using AI, we're going to penalize you, right? That's not going to fly with us because it's crap content. It will not rank in our search engine. All right. So they came out with these scaled content abuse guidelines. Guess what? A lot of people, they try to go the easy route. They try to game the system. As you can see there by that sad guy. Daniel, do you want to quickly talk about this? Is the client? Don't mention the name, obviously, but
this is a client that came to us and said, please, please, please help us. We don't know what's happening, right? Our metrics are going down. And essentially, we found out what was happening because all of these losses and drop in rankings were lining up with some Google algorithm updates. And we were looking at their search console, and a lot of the pages that were indexed all of a sudden were crawled but not indexed, and crawled but not indexed. And what Google was doing is, because of the new Google algorithm updates, they were recrawling some of these old pages and just sandboxing all of them. And over time, you could see exactly what happened, right? So rightfully so, these guys were freaking out. They went from being a very profitable company to, and essentially this isn't something that we could help them with, because our recommendation was that this ship was really sinking really fast, and it was going to really require a lot more than just some band-aids to turn this thing around. And this is the unfortunate fact that when you do things the wrong way for so long, and all of a sudden the bulk of what you've built in the past now becomes a penalty, that is a really hard place to recover from, which is exactly what happened here.
Yeah. Very sad, very sad. Such is life sometimes, huh?
Yeah, and then on that note, real quick, Chris, that's why a lot of times, when people talk about gray hats, like, we shouldn't be doing this, but it's not black hat, but it still works, even though that's the kind of stuff that will get you in trouble in the near future, right? That's when everything that we're going to talk about and the things that we're really doing is really about really following by the T recommendations of what Google's really looking for, instead of cutting corners and trying to produce stuff that might work now, but might really hurt you in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, reality is if you're an SEO agency, you are doing black hat or gray hat, because we're all trying to, in a way, to rank, in Google. But it's like, how to not go too far, not leave the gray area too far into the black area. That's what we do, right? Conform with Google guidelines as much as possible. Find ways that are acceptable, most advanced yet acceptable, the Maya principle. If you can do that, you will succeed. All right. So as of right now, Google is still the dominant player in the search game. They still dominate the search game. They're not going to go out of business anytime soon. However, new players are emerging, right? And reality is that even in their search engine, Google is now featuring other search engines such as Reddit, TripAdvisor, Quora, etc. Right? So this is what I call contextual multi-platform content creation, optimization, and distribution. This is what our AI and SEO software is about, where we no longer just think about Google. You got to be in many places to meet the right people in those places where they get their information from. Oftentimes there's an overlap, right? So the more places we can be in where these people are getting their information from, the more successful we're going to be. So this is what I'm referring to with CMPCCOD. All right. The 2080 rule, many of us are familiar with this rule. So content is no longer just king, it's also queen, and all these other people that are involved. 80% of SEO is about content. Okay, there's also other things that we need to do, such as technical SEO, functional SEO, like website design, etc. But these search engines, they're going to make money by being able to surface the best content in their search engine. That's how they're going to be able to sell advertisements, etc. And only if they're able to surface high quality content, then we're going to trust these search engines and go back to them to consume more content. So I've been doing SEO for a long time, 25, nearly 30 years, I guess now. Everything has changed. Everything will be changing. But the one thing that I want to highlight, it's all about the content. It's primarily about the content. So that's what we're going to discuss here today. All right, so Google is feeling the heat. There are now tools where we go to. Paige, I'm sure you're probably using, Search GPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, YouTube, etc., right? So we have a choice. No longer is there a monopoly, a natural monopoly, because simply nobody was able to break into that space. It's happening right now. AI is changing everything. So thrilled about what's happening in our space. Finally, right? This is what we need to get ready for. Daniel, anything to add on this slide?
No, that's it. And I think it's really there's so many shiny objects around, right? It's understanding how to use them and which ones to use.
Yeah. All right. So my CC, that long acronym there, basically most people are now using the term generative engine optimization. It's a new approach to SEO that takes AI into consideration. All right. Again, at the core of GEO is creating content that's clear, concise, comprehensive, so that all of these search engines will give it a chance to rank in their search engines at the top. Again, because these tools, they want to make money. Right? They're only going to make money if they're able to service the best content so that they can sell ads or whatever their business model is. All right. So think of it this way. create content that, like you would talk normally to somebody. Get rid of the thinking of you're going to create content for the sake of SEO. It's no longer going to work. It's simply an outdated strategy. So while Google is still important, GEO also focuses on all these other tools that I shared. And I guarantee you there's going to be more and more tools that are going to break into that space. All right. So Daniel, I'm going to hand it over to you. Google created guidelines for their search engine, but guess what? These guidelines are also applicable to all these other search engines.
Yeah. And then if at the end of this presentation, you take away 2 or 3 nuggets of information to really implement, this is one of them. This is really the important one. There's a link to the actual complete page. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but really highlight, number 1, how important this is. But number 2, some of the most important things. Chris, you can go to the next slide. The important thing to understand about this is that Google is telling you exactly what they want in terms of when you're creating content. Number 2, we use this not only to how we engineered our AI system to make sure that we're creating the outlines of the content that we need. This is essentially the mantra that our copywriters use to create the content. And this is what we use to actually analyze content that has been created in the past, and actually content that we're creating in the future, because it's really following what Google's asking. So I kind of broke this up into 4 important points from this page. Number 1, it needs to be created for the people's benefit, right? Gone are the days when you're creating things for search rankings, right? Frequency, the size of the text, the amount of times that you have to put the keyword in there. It's really about creating something by people for people. Number 2, EEAT really matters. What does it mean? Expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. What the person who is writing that piece of article brings to the table in terms of experience, understanding, and trustworthiness matters. What that piece of content exudes in terms of EEAT matters. You can do that in a lot of different ways, right? Making sure that not only are you putting blog posts out on the website, but that you were going out in conferences and seminars, and you're getting engaged in LinkedIn, and maybe you're interacting with other publications. Google sees all of that, and they see that, yes, you are a true expert in the industry. Number 3, again, when you're writing a piece of content, every piece of content needs to answer 3 questions. Who, how, and why? Who wrote this piece of content, right? Does that person have EEAT? How this piece of content was created, extremely important, right? Was it written by AI? Was it leveraged by specific industry experts? And then the most important question in my is why? Why was this piece of content created? It's there for a reason, to educate, to help solve a problem, and so forth. And again, last but not least, we keep hitting that nail on the head, is stop doing mass producing of articles. Do not blast the website with hundreds of articles that are AI generated, and also do not actually put any pieces of content on the internet that are going to be AI generated. So those are 4 very important pieces of advice to follow, when you look at the content quality principles provided by Google.
And then, hey, Paige, I just put the link to a website into, I think it's a private chat. This is an awesome tool when it comes to EEAT building. It's a website called featured.com. Paige, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this website, but basically it's a platform where publications go to find experts and ask, a question. And then experts like me can go in and answer that question. And then, if you provide a really good question, you get published in their roundup. I just got published today in 2 roundups of, high domain authority websites that, oh my God, this is the ultimate easy way to do link earning, link building, right? And you share really good content. So this is another one of those golden nuggets that I can highly recommend you take advantage of. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Daniel. All right. So agility is key. Like this chameleon here, we're at this reflection point. If you cannot adapt at this point, and I congratulate you for being on this webinar. I basically can guarantee you there's a lot of SEO agencies that will go out of business because they're going to do SEO the old way. They're going to struggle for a little bit, and then they're just going to go out of business because they're no longer relevant. So I do most of the calls with potential customers. Guess what? The last 5 conversations that I had, they ask me, so how are you different from other agencies? It's a question, right, Daniel, that we hear over and over and over, because it's there's so many SEO agencies out there. It's a commodity, right? If you want to stay in business, it's time to change, adapt, and do things like we do, okay? So we created and trademarked this Micro-SEO strategies methodology. And we created that, I think, 3 years ago after our website got hit by a core algorithm update. Went back to the drawing board. I'm like, we're not much different than any other agency out there. We need a differentiator. Hey, let me rethink everything. Let me come up with something that's completely different. And now we're updating this methodology with, the changing landscape in search, AI, etc., etc. So I highly recommend put that AI task force in place, because you're going to have to rely on AI, make it part of your process. Find a USP that's going to make you different than your competitor. That's my recommendation. Mm-hmm. Okay. So warning, sales pitch. Daniel and I hosted a half-day workshop about a month ago, where we walked through our AI and SEO methodology. It was a manual process before we went live with our software. Happy to pass on a little discount. It's pretty affordable for our replay of this workshop. Right there at the bottom is the link. So I hope you'll be able to take advantage of what we created here. Sales pitch over. So let's take a step back. If you do a search for mobile sites builder, guess who you're going to find at the very top? Duda. They did a good job optimizing their own websites. So we want to very briefly talk about Duda, the importance of having a content management system that actually works well with your SEO efforts. We believe Duda is that. So Daniel, I'm gonna, you're the web design guy. I'm gonna quickly let you talk about Duda.
Yeah, for sure. So, and it's funny because Duda, when we first connected with Duda now, I remembered exactly the first time I encountered Duda, which was about 14 years ago when we ran the website agency. And this is when, from one day to the other, Google actually announced that, it's extremely important that you have a mobile version of your website. And this was back in the days when that wasn't a thing, right? People just had a desktop. No websites were responsive. Back in the days, even people had 2 versions of the website, a mobile version and so forth. And Duda, I remember they first came because they had a really great system that turned desktop websites into a mobile version, and it made websites a lot more SEO friendly, and Google really, really liked that. So from what I remember, this is how Duda really became who they became today. So their DNA is really based on, being extremely mobile optimized, which today, again, one of the changes that Google has done recently is that they've become mobile first. So because they're mobile first, being on a platform that is super mobile friendly, which is bullet point number 2 here, mobile first indexing, is extremely important. So I have 6 bullet points that I put together in terms of why we feel, Duda is a really good platform for SEO agencies who are really interested in, having a platform that's going to help their SEO efforts. Number 1, Core Web Vitals. As we all know, when we're looking at Search Console, there are so many things that pop up in there that, depending on what content management system you're in, it's almost impossible. And sometimes, when people are on WordPress or Shopify, we have to have a conversation that, the Core Web Vitals red icons that you're seeing on there is something that we don't have control over, unfortunately. Duda really has a lot of the core web optimization as part of kind of the default base system. Again, mobile first indexing, so important, right? Not only because users are coming in on a mobile device, but most importantly, because Google is actually doing a mobile first indexing. Again, easy on-page optimization. A lot off the box optimization is already immediately happening. Next slide, Chris, please. Again, effort page building. A big part of what we do in terms of MicroStrategy is getting a page and turning that page into the ultimate resource. So it's building out that page, having a CMS that allows you to not only build out that page, but make sure that then the optimization, the schema markup, everything happens automatically, makes our lives a lot easier. Structured data. I can't tell you the amount of time that we spend, number one, understanding what structured data we want to put on websites, schema, then generating that schema, and then uploading that schema into websites. By having structured data automatically added into the pages through this automated system, such a time saver. But not only that, it gets overlooked by a lot of agencies not putting the schema in there. And most importantly, one of the great benefits is, as we all know, all websites have to be secure with an SSL. Every Duda website comes with an SSL certificate already installed as part of the system. So again, that's something else that works off the box. So yeah, we've had some really good experiences and we've seen some really good results with, the Duda sites that we've been working with.
Awesome. Yeah, so highly recommend Duda. All right, let's talk about Micro-SEO strategies, our proprietary SEO methodology. It's a hyper-focused approach. What is going on here? I can see it. Sorry, there's a screen. There we go. Hyper-focused approach to SEO focuses around identifying, optimizing low-hanging fruit opportunities on a website. Ideally, we like to work with existing pages that are already ranking in some form or shape, ideally no lower than page 2 or 3 in Google, have adequate search volume, high intent. Then what we do, we do deep analysis of top ranking competitors for those keywords, create ultra-specific, highly optimized content targeting niche, short, long-tail keywords. And then, as Daniel mentioned earlier, create supporting content so we could create a cluster of content. Let me quickly show you a quick example here. If you guys want to do a quick search for Micro-SEO service, and we have people from all over the world, so different results may vary. But basically, I used SE Rankings keyword research tool to see, is it going to make sense for us to create something that targets that keyword, right? So if you use SE Rankings keyword research tool, you're going to see there, average search volume about 50. But what's more important, searches are going up and up and up because it's a trending keyword. And the beautiful thing is it's a 5. It's very easy for me to rank at the top in Google, especially with our methodology. And Paige, I see you nodding. I'm not sure if you see the same results that I'm seeing. So at the bottom there, 5 days ago, put this page up. If you do a search for Micro-SEO service, not only are we in the AI overview, which is an incredible new feature, we're also number 1. It's driving a lot of high quality content to our website. This is what we're talking about here. This is what our methodology is doing. So I'm going to quickly show how to use SE ranking to perform keyword research. Ideally, again, we want to identify low-hanging fruit opportunities on a website. They don't always exist. So frequently we also create content from scratch. But as you guys know, if you run an agency, you know that creating new content can take longer to rank. So we definitely prefer existing content that's already ranking, on page 2 or 3 in Google. With this methodology, we can take that page to, page 1 fairly quick. Daniel, I'm not gonna have you go through all these things here, but maybe just globally describe.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll get to it in the demo, and we're about that, I think, minute 40.
Yeah, no, pretty sure I could summarize what our MicroStrategy. So it's a lot of steps in our project management system. It's 38 steps that we follow. Essentially, it's this: we get a piece of content and a page that's ranking today, and we say, how do we get this page to rank number one? So we look at who are the websites that are ranking on the first page. We get all of that information and we see what are they talking about, and then we go through a whole process to say how can we turn this page into the ultimate resource of information and be the top page that will have all of the resources, information, questions, answers in one place. And that's what the MicroStrategy is going through that research, finding out what AI overviews returning, finding out what other websites are talking about, and completing essentially an outline that is a roadmap that, if followed by a writer who's really an expert at the industry and they follow that outline, the piece of content that that writer is going to create has a really good chance of being the ultimate piece of information about that content, which is Google wants to see, right? Some of the other steps is obviously once that page is created, putting the schema, doing the on-page optimization. Once that page is launched, there's a lot of important stuff that needs to happen after the fact. Let's get some traction. Let's social about it. Let's include it on an email blast and so forth. So a micro SEO is really a combination of a lot of different steps that take a lot of different people, a lot of time to get to work. But it essentially comes down to creating an outline that, if followed by a human writer and it's written in depth, it's really going to become the ultimate piece of information about that subject matter.
Awesome. Going back to the AI task force. So when I spoke about this stuff at a conference, just as generative AI emerged, I'm like, oh my God, we're doing so many things in such a manual way. Like, that was right after ChatGPT launched. I'm like, we're going to try to figure out how to automate as much as possible. So I spent about 6 days doing prompt engineering. It took one process down from 14 hours to about an hour. This is why you need to do implement an AI task force. Take a look at everything that you do, because that's a major competitive advantage. All right. So again, at the bottom, there's the link to the SE ranking trial, no credit card required, 30 days free access to this incredible tool. So I ran a low-hanging fruit audit on our website. I just want to show you an example of what we would say is a low-hanging fruit opportunity. As you can see there, this piece of content is ranking for SEO costs, SEO optimization cost, SEO marketing cost. Those are high intent keywords and they have very high search volume. We're nowhere, right? We're on page 2. With our methodology, we'll be able to get onto page 1. We're going to get a much, much, much bigger piece of this cake. So this is what you want to look for when you do a low-hanging fruit audit using SE ranking or another tool. All right. And then before you lock in a keyword, in this case, SEO optimization cost, use the keyword research feature on SE ranking. Dig a little bit deeper, make sure it's not trending down. Take a look at many of the different metrics that this tool provides you with, and then lock in the right kind of keywords. We call them North Star keywords. That being said, so now we know our keywords, right? We have identified the piece of content that we want to re-optimize. Daniel, this is the super exciting part, the world premiere of BSM Copilot. Daniel, I think you're going to share your screen now.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And so this is very exciting, especially for this presentation, because it's scaling SEO services. So this is something that's allowing us to do more of the right things in a shorter period of time. Right. And right now, in full transparency, this is a technology that we're using essentially to deliver services for our clients. It's not something that's available to the public yet. And we're also working with other agencies where we're actually creating outlines and instructions for writers, where we provide other agencies with, the deliverables from this as well. But let me show you a little bit. So anytime that we do a MicroStrategy, we're usually doing And again, depending on the client and on the strategy, but we're doing a topic cluster of about 5 pages. That's average, which means we're going to have in the middle here our main pillar page, which is going to be a micro strategy supported by 4 pieces of content. And the reason we do that is because we want to not only rank highly for one keyword, but we're really trying to have topical expertise. We want to make sure that, all of the related keywords around that main keyword and around that main page become, EEAT heavy. All of these pages need to become the ultimate piece of information. So everything that we talked about was a manual process, right? Here on the left box, the research and content outline. We do a manual keyword research and we create a MicroStrategy summary summarizing everything that the client needs to, be included in the project. Our branding guide, we work very closely with the client to do a brand guide, voice, tones, and then we do AI overview. So we get that keyword and we used to go into Google for each keyword, copy and paste what that AI overview was for the whatever 15 keywords we're going for. And then we used to do a manual SERP analysis. We would go for each keyword, do a search, find out what are the top 10 websites, copy and paste all of that content into a document. Why? Because we want to know who's ranking on the first 10 positions and use that information. Then that information was given to one of our strategists who would actually create a content outline. And this content outline was done first for the main pillar page and then for the supporting pieces of content. And then this was then given to our writer, who would then take the time to create this content. And once this content was created and launched, other people would then create Quora pieces. And how do we repurpose that content into newsletters and LinkedIn and press releases and Medium? And in full transparency, this took us about 11 to 15 weeks to go through this process. So how has BSM Copilot changed everything for us? The reason we call this BSM Copilot is because it's very important. We're not letting AI run the show. We are still in charge of the most important things, and BSM Copilot allows it to do the heavy lifting for us. So now everything that you see in yellow are things that humans still do. We still need to do the keyword research manually, right? Yes, we can leverage tools to give us some initial ideas, but we want to make sure that the keywords that we're choosing are the right ones. And then we're working very closely with the client to do the MicroStrategy summary, the objectives and so forth, and the brand guide. But now we can actually automate all of that scraping research for the AI overview and the SERP analysis. But the most important thing, and I'm actually going to show you, we can actually now have that content outline created by our prompting system that does 2 things. Number one, it creates the outline that's going to be given to a real author in a fraction of the time. But number 2, most importantly, the quality and the depthness of this outline is a lot better because we're using AI, right? Instead of relying on a person who has limited access to information and limited time, the system that we're using now has a lot more information that it's driving its decisions from. And this piece of outline that it's being created, it's essentially very detailed, not only on the outline itself, but on the description and instructions for the writer on what and how they need to write, which if the writer then follows this as a roadmap, it is going to have a really high chance that this piece of content that they're going to be creating is going to be really the ultimate piece of information. Now, if you look at this, the important thing here is that we're leveraging AI on the left, on the research and content outline. We're leveraging AI on the post-launch, right? Once we've created a piece of content by a human, there's a lot of repurposing that AI can do for us, which Google has absolutely no problem with. How do we repurpose content for a newsletter, for a podcast, for a Facebook? It works because this is being repurposed on a piece of content that was created by the writers. So this is the real beauty of a BSM Copilot, is that we're still keeping intact the most important thing that Google really wants to see, that this piece of content was created by a human that's really an expert at the industry and that's really following a framework of what to write about that's going to be the best piece of content. So really quickly, I know we only have a few minutes left, but I want to show you a little bit of what this process does. So this is our BSM Copilot. right? And we have different prompts for different things. So I can do some keyword research. Right now, I'm going to do one for optimizing an existing page, right? And so I put in here the MicroStrategy summary doc. I have the brand guide. I have the AI overview, and I have the SERP analysis. And the reason that I'm putting all of this information in here is because it's going to pull from this information when doing the answers. And I'll show you exactly what's happening here. So for example, can you please create an outline? And BSM Copilot says yes. And you'll see that this is a conversation as it moves forward. Here's the URL of the page that we're going to be enhancing together. Okay, I visited the URL. I'm ready for your next steps. And the next prompt comes in, say, to provide you with more context, here's a brief outline or overview of the company that we're working with. And Copilot says, understood. I'm familiar with the company, its background. Let's proceed. So this is a process that this specific one has about 30 prompts that we go in. And let me show you what those prompts look like. So if you go to the prompt editor, right, this is, again, for our existing pages. And the beauty of making a system like this work is prompt management. If you ask the right questions and if you communicate it with the LLM in the right format, providing the right information, you get exactly what you want. So each one of these, for example, is going to be a combination of a static prompt and then pulling in specific information about that client from the sheets, right? So you're going to see that there's all kinds of prompts here for creating an existing page or creating a new page. Once we go through this process, it pretty much spits out two things at the end. Number one, this is the outline that is going to be, first and most importantly, provided to the client so they can approve it, right? But this is going to then go to the writer and essentially has a project summary, right? Number two, project overview. How did we create this document? Well, this outline was really based on an in-depth competitor analysis, the AI overview, existing page evaluation of what's currently there today, keyword research that we've done and the AI did for us, and then the content strategy. And then it goes into, here is the content. If the writer follows this format and talks about all of these different topics and sections and so forth, this is going to be probably one of the most comprehensive pieces of information about that subject matter. And at the end here, there's additional instructions for the writer, right? What's the purpose of the content? Well, it's to inform, educate, persuade. Who's the target audience? What are the primary keywords? What are the goals? Again, this is a deliverable that goes, and not only do we have a great content, but we have very specific instructions for the writer to say, when you write this content, here are things to keep in mind. The second deliverable, going back to our topic cluster, what are great pieces of supporting content that we can create that are going to make this piece even stronger? So the system is also going to recommend, in this case, 10 pieces. So here's one, for example, mastering HO8 budgeting. Why are we recommending? Well, what are the keywords that are going to be supporting this page, and why are we recommending this as a supporting piece? Well, this topic directly addresses a core pain point of the HOAs, which is one of the topics that are part of our main pillar page, right? So if you go back to this page, which is something that took us 13 to 15 hours before, it usually takes about a week to create all of this outline that goes to a writer. The time that a writer takes to write this content, still the same, right? Because that was human driven, still human driven, 2 to 3 weeks. And now leveraging Copilot, it takes us about a week or two to optimize a lot of the post-launch things. So instead of taking about 15 weeks to go through a process, by leveraging Copilot, we can realistically do this. And we've been doing this now, for a couple months, testing the system between 4 to 6 weeks. Number one, we get to do more in less time, which is really how do you scale SEO services. But number two, the quality of the content that the writers have been able to create has been much better because the quality and the depthness of the actual content outline that is created is a lot more powerful because we're using BSM Copilot. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea how we are using AI to assist us in what we do so we can do it better. but still keeping the core of what we do, which is really having great writers writing great content intact. Chris, I'll let you take it from here.
That's basically it. Again, the half day, you're going to get a ton of really good information, including the prompts. I spent 6 days. Then Daniel transformed this into a tool. Also, we're thinking about, if you need help with outlines, we're thinking about becoming an outline broker. So feel free to reach out. This stuff works. It's incredible. I'm thrilled that I think we have figured it out for now. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the near future with SEO and AI. I can guarantee you things will continue to change. Yeah. Over.
Amazing. Well done, guys. So that's not open to public yet.
We have, you guys are the first to see this thing. We have just launched it. I pressured Daniel to, make sure we can show it today. So we're going to see how, we still have to test it. We've tested on our own website with select customers. The results are incredible. I mean, again, within a day or two, page 1, which obviously is unheard of, which I cannot guarantee. But we're going to continue to test. I'm a realist. Things can change. So eventually we may potentially, make that available for a fee, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Right now we're using, and on that note page, we're like heavily using it to do what we do for our clients, but there's like 2 or 3 agencies that we're partnering up with right now that they provide us information about the pages that they want, and we're giving them the 2 deliverables that I essentially showed you at the end as well, because that helps us really fine tune our process. But they're loving it, right? Because they can get to writing pieces of content really within a couple days.
Also do a search, our audience SEO price guide. That's another one. Another example.
That one you've used the tool to create, then.
Yeah.
Amazing.
A number, or let me. Ultimate local SEO guide. I think I put that up last week. So we're testing it, right? I believe it when I see it. So we're testing this stuff. I'm seeing incredible results. So we're going to do more of it. Yeah.
And have you tried giving your prompts back to AI to write, or are you?
Yeah. So I spent 6 days doing this, writing these prompts. It was really interesting. I'm not a prompt engineer, but I basically used all the different tools and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Please help me refine this prompt. Am I on the right track? So I worked with these tools. It's really incredible. Yeah.
And a big part of what we do now, Paige, as well, is like fine tuning. There's always fine tuning. So a big part is like on one screen, I'll be like running the system, and on the other screen, I'll be like tweaking the prompts. And then we test the prompts with different LLMs. So we test it with Gemini, we test it with Claude, with Perplexity. We've tested it with a couple other ones, right? We have our favorite, but they all kind of created different strategies, different presentations, different outlines. And in full transparency, Gemini is the one that we like the most, right? That's the one that really goes in deeper, has access to go out there and do more research. For now, maybe that'll change, right? That's why we're always playing with different ones, always testing different things.
Yeah. And is Gemini a little bit more trustworthy? One of the issues I've had, especially in B2B content writing, is finding those legit sources of data, like 56% of blah, blah. Like, I need to have a reference for that. Otherwise, I'm not sure where you've found that.
That's a very good point, right? Because the outline that we're creating, we're not going into that detail. That is the responsibility of the writer to actually get all of the content, right? What Gemini is helping us do is to say, hey, of everyone who's out there writing about this and everything that people are searching for, this is what you need to include in here, headers and subheaders, to make sure. And then it's up to the writer to go in there and do their research, to really make sure that whatever metrics they're putting in there are real relevant metrics from a real place.
Definitely. And a huge reason to have a human writer and not an AI writer to make sure it's not just spreading misinformation. Yes, let's get into the Q&A. So, Sandra, number 1, How do you base your charges for SEO or changes? Is that charges?
Yeah, I can. So I do the sales call. So basically, our blended average hourly rate is about 125 US across, all the people that work here. So basically, the more you can invest with us, the more you're gonna get of that stuff. So, and it's a good rate. It's very, very affordable. So we're in a good spot. We're probably may have to go up a bit, but right now, so we're charging about 125 an hour. But if somebody engages with us, it's 2, 3, 4, 5,000, etc. So they're basically buying more of our time.
Yeah, I've always worked on an hourly rate. Anton, you're going ahead of me. I was going to do hands next. God, Stephen, we'll do Stephen next. When might you be open to talking to other content agencies to try this along with the other ones you're working on now?
Which you're working on. We're open. Page, I put the link to our contact page on our website in there. We're open. I'm open to conversation. Please keep in mind we're super busy luckily right now, so you may not hear back from me immediately. Or just go to Boulder SEO Marketing, the website, and click on contact. The emails come to me. So yeah, if I'm always open to an interesting proposition or whatever it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. There we go. Thank you, Anton. Hans, should we be paying more attention to Bing because of Search GPT? Great question.
Awesome question. I was actually going to talk about this, but then I forgot. Sadly, yes. Yeah, we do, because I was playing around with Search GPT. Guess what? Bing is sold on the back end, right? So we do need to pay more attention to Bing. Yeah, Daniel, it was something I was going to talk to you about. We need to get on it even more. So Hans, absolutely, you're spot on.
That's really interesting. I am terrible at checking Bing, but to my credit, I do check where my sources come from, and my traffic sources from Bing are this, and my Google sources are that. So, pinch of salt and all that. I think it's good to keep an eye on the technology side of things, but do be aware of where your client's traffic is coming from.
Now's the time. It'll increase, and now's the time to, take Bing into consideration.
Definitely. Yeah. Got a few other questions just from the other channels. So this is quite a nice meaty one. What are the ethical implications of using AI in SEO, particularly concerning the potential for bias and misinformation?
Oh man, awesome question. As Daniel just alluded to, you got to check everything. These tools are getting better, right? But as you said, you have to check your sources. So ethical, right now it's the Wild West. All these tools, they're like, we're going to do it now. I'm going to ask for forgiveness later. There's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be this and that. But these tools, they're like, they're not profitable. They have to provide proof of concept that they're actually good at this, right? So they're just doing what they want to do. Image creation, video, text to video is coming up now, etc., etc. So ethical, if you're a tool creator, be careful because you will be sued, right? And then always make sure check your sources. That's very important. That's why we use AI for the research, but then it's real human people that are doing the work. They have to check, fact check, etc.
Yeah, definitely. I've made my copywriters recently do the link highlight option.
Yeah.
If you're giving me a link to a stat, I want the URL that's going to take me to where you have exactly quoted that from. Just so I'm checking that you've got it from somewhere reputable. You guys were talking about topic clusters quite a lot. Obviously, that's nothing new. We've been doing topic clusters in SEO for a long while, but how do you decide what those clusters are going to be? It was in the AI output, wasn't it? But are there keywords associated with those in the keyword research that you put in?
Yep. Yeah. Daniel, if you want to.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So, and again, that's why one of the brilliant things about leveraging the BSM Copilot to help us with that is that when we have a pillar page, and that starts the process, right? And then when we're creating the supporting pieces of content that are around it, we're not driving that decision based on keywords that we also want to rank for. We're looking at the main piece of content that we've created and what are certain areas and sections of that piece of content that could benefit from having additional information written about it that's not necessarily going to live there. That's what dictates our decision in terms of, now, one of the questions that was asked as well is, do you need to make sure that, whatever keywords you're going to be focusing on a specific, supporting content has really high metrics? No, because that's not the purpose. The intent really here is to create topical expertise around, the entire subject matter. So a lot of times, some of the keywords that are going to be chosen for supporting pieces of content don't necessarily have great search volume, but they do a very good job at being a standalone piece that is going to rank for its own keywords and drive people back to and from the main pillar page. But most importantly, it's there to support the main piece of content, which is going into a specific topic in more depth.
Nice. And I think one of the good examples you had was that pillar page was a middle to bottom of funnel, like money page, if you will, but it was a top of funnel guide that was a nice cluster.
Exactly.
Brilliant. I can't see any more questions in the chat. Please do get them in the next couple of seconds if you want any more Q&A, but I just want to say thank you so much to Chris and Daniel. That was such a good talk. And I think talking about AI in a quite approachable way that wasn't terrifying. So thank you so much. It's nice to know that SEO is not dead. We might just have an incredibly long acronym for it now, Chris.
Let's go with GEO. That's easier.
Yeah, I'm not sure yours is going to catch on, to be fair.
I don't think so.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for everyone joining us and all of your questions. I hope you've had a fantastic webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you to Duda. We enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you.
NSE ranking.
Brilliant.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye all.
Bye-bye.